Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you are the hardcore. We appreciate you here in Noir City because you are the late show on Oscar night. And you are here. I love that. Is it a good thing that a silent film just won Best Picture? I think maybe it is. You know? Now maybe they'll start making films with actual scripts and things. That would be extraordinary. You know? That would be pretty good. Anything can happen now. So I welcome you to Noir City. And how many of you were here to see The Great Gatsby, the previous show? Yes. Okay. A big vote of confidence there for Gatsby. Yeah. Very interesting film, and I'm very glad that we were able to screen it here. I actually think that the film you're about to see is a much better film than The Great Gatsby. And amazingly, it had sort of slipped through the cracks, much like Gatsby had. This is a film that I have wanted to screen at Noir City for many years now, but there was no 35mm print of it, which just astounds me, because it's a pretty extraordinary film. But these things happen these days. And it is because of the efforts of the Film Noir Foundation. If you don't know about the Film Noir Foundation, I would suggest you visit our merchandise table during the festival and talk to our lovely colleagues Vince and Rosemarie out there, who are explaining to you all the benefits of the Film Noir Foundation and what it is that we actually do. But the foundation decided, because we had asked Warner Brothers enough times for this film and been told that there was no print, we said, well, if you actually find the original elements of this film, the foundation will pay to have the print made, so that there is what we call a preservation print of the film. Just to clarify this for people, we do restorations at the Film Noir Foundation, and that is where you take what is available and you restore it and enhance it so that you will create essentially a new negative from which prints can be made in perpetuity. And that's a restoration. What you're about to see is a preservation, which is where we are just funding a print of the best available existing material, which was in fact a negative of this film. But we just printed it. There is no special enhancement. There is no additional work on the soundtrack. There's nothing done to improve it in any way. This is just a print of what was available. And we're very happy to say that this print will now reside at the UCLA Film and Television Archive in the Film Noir Foundation collection. And it's very important, I will stress again, very important that these films actually be preserved in 35mm, the medium in which they were created, because digital and preservation don't actually go together yet. It's being worked on to figure out how to actually digitally preserve things. Digital is great, it's very convenient, it allows things to be seen and distributed in ways that were never before imaginable. But it is not a preservation medium. We do not yet know how time will affect that digital information, and we do know that every time the platform changes in which they expect to output digital information, it has to be migrated from the existing format to the new format, and this happens multiple times. And unfortunately, not everyone who possesses these films can afford what they call this forward migration of the information. If you have it in 35mm, I guarantee you that film is going to be properly preserved. It will last for about 100 years. You cannot say the same of digital information at this point. So that is why we make an issue out of making sure that there is a 35mm print of all of these films that we love so much. So, Film Noir Foundation, very proud to have preserved what you're about to see, this print of Three Strangers. The history of this film is that John Huston wrote this story in his younger days in the 1930s, before he had really become the John Huston that you know now in film lore. This was pre-Maltese Falcon or any of that. And he sold the story to Warner Brothers, and then after that, he made the Maltese Falcon and established himself as a writer-director in Hollywood. But it wasn't until 1946 that Warner Brothers actually decided to make this story. The screenplay was worked on by Howard Koch as well as what Huston had originally written. The premise of the film was based on Huston being in England and seeing this very intriguing Chinese idol in an antique shop, and then going to the pub and talking about the way they ran the sweepstakes in England, which is kind of interesting. It may take a little getting used to when you see the story if you don't understand how the sweepstakes worked over there and how it was tied into horse racing. You bought a sweepstakes ticket, and there was a horse and a number on the ticket, and when the Grand National was run, if you were the possessor of the lucky number and you were associated with that horse, then that horse was kind of running for you in the sweepstakes, which figures prominently in the plot of this film. Nothing like it in the United States, which is why this film is set in London in 1938. The plot that Huston devised could only really happen in London. The thing that's very interesting about this film is they didn't really know what to do with it when Huston wrote it. By the time 1946 rolled around, the whole noir movement was kind of in full swing, and the film was much more acceptable to Warner Brothers by then, and they sort of sold it as not a sequel to, but they tried to sell it as the next Maltese Falcon. Even though it's not a detective story in any way, the film reunited some significant players from that film, primarily the very unique acting team of Sidney Greenstreet and Peter Lorre. And the two of them give, I think, just the best performances of their careers in this movie. And the thing that makes this movie unique beyond anything else is that the romantic lead is played by Peter Lorre. That's extraordinary. So it's really, there's nothing like it in Peter Lorre's filmography. It is really remarkable. And Greenstreet gives an incredible performance in this film. And the female lead, Geraldine Fitzgerald, was the actress who John Huston originally wanted to play Bridget O'Shaughnessy in The Maltese Falcon. So finally, you get to see what might have been, because she plays a character, Crystal Shackelford, who is not unlike Bridget O'Shaughnessy, and she tears up the screen in this film. She's absolutely fantastic. No actress in the 1940s did Crazy Eyes quite like Geraldine Fitzgerald. She is absolutely fantastic. And I will leave you with this. There are many directors in Hollywood who never really got their due because they were not auteurs. And at a certain point when we were all youngsters and we all started to love film, the auteur theory sort of held sway, and so we all became disciples of John Ford and Orson Welles and Howard Hawks and Sam Fuller, all these directors who left their mark, distinctive mark on every film they made. And now, as I'm older and I've learned a lot more about movie making and the business and how all this actually works, I have a great deal of respect for those directors who were never considered auteurs. They just made really, really good movies, one after another. And I'm speaking of men like Robert Wise and Michael Curtiz, and the director of tonight's film, Jean Negulesco, who was really a remarkable filmmaker, but he just didn't exert his personality on the material. But he always got the most out of any script he was given, and tonight's film is a perfect case in point. This film is just beautifully, beautifully directed. And Negulesco was a painter and an art director turned director, and he just made really, really terrific movies for Warner Brothers and 20th Century Fox in the 40s. And I'm very, very pleased that we have been able to preserve what I think is one of his very best films. So I'm very glad that you came out tonight, and I know that you are very much going to enjoy Three Strangers. Thanks very much.